define Goblin? No problem. It's written by the great George MacDonald. He was the mentor of C.S. Lewis. Okay, here we go. Now, in these subterranean caverns lived a strange race of beings, called by some gnomes, by some kobolds, and by others goblins. There was a legend current in the country that at one time they lived above ground and were very like other people. But for some reason or another, concerning which there were different legendary theories, the king had laid what they thought too severe taxes upon them, or had required observances of them they did not like, and imposed stricter laws, and the consequence was that they had all disappeared from the face of the country. According to the legend, however, instead of going to some other country, they had all taken refuge in the subterranean caverns, whence they never came out but at night, and then seldom showed themselves in any numbers, and never to many people at once. It was only in the least frequented and most difficult parts of the mountains, Manhattan, West Hollywood, parts of Chicago, Miami, that they were said to gather even at night in the open air. Those who had caught sight of any of them said they had greatly altered in the course of generations, and no wonder, seeing they lived away from the sun in cold and wet and dark places. The city of London. They were now not ordinarily ugly, but either absolutely hideous or ludicrously grotesque both in face and form. The goblins themselves were not so far removed from the human as such a description would imply, and as they grew misshapen in body, they had grown in knowledge and cleverness, and now were able to do things no mortal could see the possibility of, like debt instruments. But as they grew in cunning, they grew in mischief, and their great delight was in every way they could think of to annoy the people who lived in the open air story above them. Anybody know of what this is? Anyway, they had enough of affection left for each other to preserve them from being absolutely cruel for cruelty's sake to those that came in their way, but still they so heartily cherished the ancestral grudge against those who occupied their former possessions, and especially against the descendants of the king, Jesus Christ, who had caused their expulsion, that they sought every opportunity of tormenting them in ways that were as odd as their inventors. And although dwarfed and misshapen, they had strength equal to their cunning. In the process of time, they had got a king and a government of their own, whose chief business beyond their own simple affairs was to devise trouble for their neighbors. Anyone know who this sounds like? Trouble for their neighbors. It will now be pretty evident why the little princess had never seen the sky at night. Chemtrails by the goblins. They were much too afraid of the goblins to let her out of the house then, even in company with ever so many attendants, and they had good reason, as we shall see by and by. Guys, every single children's book that has any value in history, starting before 1913 around, I don't know what happened around then in America, but everyone would describe the Grabbler to a frickin' T. And they were like, don't take anything from them in the woods. Don't follow them into the woods. Don't take their loans. You're not going to get a record contract. It's like, this is common knowledge for all of eternity until now.